Alright everyone, hope you're all doing good today, hope you're all doing well. It's time for another episode of Speedruns From the Crypt, your bi-weekly horror hotfix. I'm your host, Dices, and it is the week before GDQ, but I've been having a bit of trouble remembering what might be coming up. So today we're going to be experiencing just a little amnesia. Before we do begin into that, I do have a couple announcements for you. For one, if you ever miss any of the GDQ Hotfix show special events and marathons, you can check out our YouTube at youtube.com/gamesdonequick. If you're watching this on YouTube, remember to like, comment, and subscribe to stay up to date with GDQ. And as well, if you're curious about the Hotfix episodes, you can check out the full week schedule and explore our full season lineup at gdq.com/hotfix. But yes, today we are taking a look at the Amnesia franchise. It is a cool franchise with a lot of interesting games. A lot of tech is shared, but it does tend to be a little bit different, and honestly these runs can get rather glitchy. So if you like a lot of platforming, should be a fun episode. Anyway, we'll be diving into the Amnesia Anthology. It is a full series speedrun of all the Amnesia games featuring Blood Thunder. Take it away.
Oh boy, we're back to show off some of my favorite speedruns to do. The entire Amnesia series, if you're wondering what that entails. And we're going to start off with Amnesia The Dark Descent. We're going to go in release order. So after that, we have the expansion for The Dark Descent, Amnesia Justine, which, if you've never heard of that, it's kind of a common thing. Yeah, it's just like kind of a standalone expansion, pretty short overall. And then we hop into A Machine for Pigs, Rebirth, and we're going to be doing the bunker after that. All these are basically going to be going to any percent, but as a little treat, because Amnesia the Bunker's any percent is incredibly busted. It takes less than 2 minutes to actually do. We're going to be showcasing the glitchless route instead, which is a little bit longer and a little bit more involved. So we're just going to hop into this because we've got a lot of gaming to do. Just going to boot up Play as Daniel here. We're going to just go once this loading screen's kind of done, Daniel starts talking. Gonna get real spooky here. And we're off. So we're going through the Castle Brennenburg as Daniel. A lot of these games, not some of them, all of them, kind of have the premise of something's happened, and for some reason you don't remember it, and you're reliving those events, hence amnesia. And they're all a little bit different. They're all sort of intertwined, which we'll talk about more in Rebirth. They're all somewhat in the same universe, but they don't have any real direct connections as far as like the main story goes. And one big question you're gonna have probably when you see when we wake up here is, why does this game look like it's PS1, PS2 graphics? And that's simply for a very specific reason. You can see how blocky it is. We turn down a certain setting, which makes the graphics look very blocky. There are 2 or 3 setups in this run where it's really handy to be able to see that more blocky texture, so you can do very precise lineups instead of just kind of winging it, which is why. The other games will look a little bit crisper, but yeah, we're just gonna wake up and off we go through one of the most beloved horror games of more, I'd say more recent years, but this came out forever ago at this point. I've actually been running this game for well over a decade at this point. I ran it back in 2013 on and off. Just crazy to think about how far it's come. We're going to stay in bounds for just a little bit, and then it's going to break wide open, which all of the frictional titles, which is the Amnesia series that we're playing, Soma, which a lot of people know and love, the Penumbra series, they make for really fun speedruns because they are runs where whatever you want to do, whatever you think you can do, you pretty much can. So that's gonna be like one of the only times we're in bounds for a large part of the level. And it's also gonna get really spooky because in these games you're supposed to pick up a lantern or an equivalent like light source. That's not gonna be the case for most of these titles. So we're gonna go in here to get our run speed back real quick. It's also where the lantern is, but that's too slow to grab, so we're just gonna go out of bounds where it's real dark and spooky by just spamming jump and crouch. Up and out we go, and this is going to be a pretty common trend for the next 2 hours, give or take. And from here we can just navigate to the end of the door. So coming up we have kind of the first hub section where you're supposed to go to all these different rooms, solve this giant puzzle. But we can do a save exit. Load in that save I just made, hold down use, or interact when I load in, and we click on the final door of the area. It's what's known kind of as like a load warp, which we'll experience quite a few times in this game. Essentially what's happening is when you load in, you're placed in a very specific point on the map, and then like a frame or two later, you're placed where you're supposed to be, according to your save. For that level specifically, you're placed right by the end door. So as long as you're facing in the right direction and you're holding down interact on that 1 or 2 frames that you're loaded in, you can just click on the exit and leave, which is a pretty big skip. So we'll use it a couple more times, but it won't be to the same effect. Here's a spooky monster. During flashbacks, they won't actually harm you, so you can just kind of run past this guy. And then another fun trick that we're going to do is to use boxes to go out of bounds. So just going to drop this on our head, and it's going to push us right through the wall. It's pretty cool, and once again, we can just navigate to the end. Whoop. Alright, this is where the game gets really, really spooky. This is the water monster. Everyone's favorite part of the game. Luckily, we don't really need to worry too much. Just get him out of the doorway, and we're fine. Being in water is pretty slow, so we're just doing our best to stay out of it as much as possible. There's another water monster over here. Gonna give him a little tasty snack to nibble on. And then while he's distracted, we're gonna use another box to just push ourselves through this gate, hopefully. This one's a little bit tricky, but first try, no problems. Okay. And we need the needle not only get out here, but for a quest later on. So make sure to pick that up. And then, you know, one of the big chase sequences. We're just going to completely avoid by trying to climb up this wall. So a lot of games, the textures of the wall would just be kind of a flat surface, just a big box. That's not the case for the fictional games and the HPL engine that this is in. Basically, whatever it looks like, that's kind of how the collision is. So it's a really like jagged rock or jagged surface. Those are a lot of different surfaces you can jump off of. So walls aren't just a flat, straight up and down wall. It's actually just a bunch of little surfaces that you can jump off of, which when you just spam jump by putting on a mouse wheel or something, you can just kind of climb whatever you want. Sometimes Daniel doesn't want to actually jump. But yeah, we can do a lot of crazy vertical boost up into the ceiling, clip through the top of the map, stuff like that. So this is our second hub area. This is kind of how the entrance hall would play out. We go to these different rooms, get certain items, come back, and put it all together. We can't actually do a big skip like we can in the entrance hall, because that's the only one that puts you like near the exit. But a lot of these rooms leading from, yeah. Got to the deck? Okay. But any time we go from a hub to a different area, it puts that 1 or 2 frame that we're loaded in by the door that we entered in. So when we're coming back, we can just do a load warp, as long as we're facing the door. So I'm gonna get what I need, face the door, and then do a little load warp. And pick up some spare laudanums, which are kind of our health system. So we're just gonna kind of get what we need, which is this key here. Look towards the door, load warp, and we click out. Now this is something that doesn't work in the other games, so it's kind of a Amnesia Dark Descent special. So a lot of the games do share somewhat similar looking tricks, but all kind of in a different way. Which, speaking on that, as far as the engine goes, it's the HPL engine, which is an in-house engine for fictional games themselves. A reference to, you know, HPL Lovecraft and the spookiness that comes with that. But the Penumbra games were on HPL 1. The Amnesia, Dark Descent, Justine, and Machine for Pigs are on HPL 2. And everything post that is on HPL 3. So Rebirth, Soma, and The Bunker are on HPL 3. Which come with different tricks, different fun stuff. You're going to see a lot of just kind of like walking through walls in this game and Machine for Pigs, as well as just in the standalone expansion from this game. Once we get into Rebirth and the HPL3 engine, it comes more about props and using that to clip through walls. Like I said, they're essentially going to look kind of similar, so we're just going to force our way up here after we, you know, let's not forget a part. Because if you forget a drill part here, you will soft lock a quest later on. Get a jump. So doing all of this to kind of bypass some rubble, bypass the monsters. I might need to actually, okay, it's, yep. Fortunately, didn't quite get up to where I need it, but instead of just redoing the area, I can actually just load warp out of here. Click on the door and immediately come right back in. Try it again. For some reason that also resets the box, which is kind of weird. But it happens. Back through the ceiling. So we need to kind of jump up this and get to a visible platform. So anytime the bright flashes of white happen, that's a flashback. We kind of get a little bit of our memory. We get a little peek into maybe what's happened. That does a couple different things as far as the world is concerned. One, it slows us down, so we want to try to avoid them as much as we can. So we already talked about the fact that monsters during flashbacks won't attack you. One, it also blinds us, which is not fun, but yeah, whenever we can avoid them, we try to. But there are some instances where it is helpful. So we're going to pick up a couple more items. Do one big load warp out of here. And we kind of have all we need to solve the puzzle, which is the machine room. We're done with the first hub section of the game. So spooky. Get our key. So a really fun way to solve puzzles in these games is actually to use props. So I can interact with these on an individual level, or I can just smack them around. And this one. There we go. Using props is just a little faster than actually interacting with stuff overall. It's a nice little way to speed it up. This flashback actually lasts forever. Okay, things do not want to click properly. There we go. Handy dandy. And as far as props go, we really don't want to be carrying them around too much because they also slow us down. We don't want to go slow. We want to go fast. So we're going to kind of juggle these around. But yeah, we just need to bring everything down to the basement, to the big machine. Hope we get lucky and one of those lands on there. It didn't. Yeah, a little bit of coal. And there's actually some fun things you get to skip here, which is just not required by the game. So we need to put the coal in the burner. We don't actually need to activate it. We don't need to pull the lever at all. Don't need to close it. That's considered complete. Just gonna smack these on here until they fit. We solved it, and then one big load warp right back out of here. Touching on the story just a little bit, we are Daniel. We have come to Castle Brennenburg because we discovered an orb on a archaeological dig, and the orb has a guardian known as the Shadow, which comes from another world that is now chasing us and trying to kill us, which is also what this like oozy flesh stuff is. It's like the Shadow catching up to us, haunting us. But Alexander, the owner of this castle, was like, hey, come here and I can help you. What he didn't really tell you is that he's going to make you torture all of these different people and kind of become his lackey and do this terrible, terrible stuff in order to, unbeknownst to you, open a portal to a different dimension and return home. Which is also where the orb and the shadow kind of come from originally. And then you feel so bad about it, you regret the things that you've done, that you take an amnesia mixture in hopes that when you retrace your steps, you are disgusted at the things you've done, you despise Alexander, and you want to kill him. Which is kind of where we're heading now. Here's the monster. And now, like I said, we try to avoid flashbacks, but if we actually hit one here, the monster chasing us kind of just gives up, starts walking away.
Where did she go? I'll never tell you. You're just making things worse. Look, this is no place for a young girl all by herself. She could be hurt or worse. There's no telling what horrors are
Break in?
down there.
Fortunately, some of these flashbacks are placed like in spots where we just physically can't get past them. So it still just slows us down ever so much. There are some cheeky ways around it, but they kind of abuse a save and load strat, which is just not fast to real time. So even for something like this, it's just not worth doing. Flashbacks actually play out through loading screens. You can hear the dialogue go when I transition from one map to the next. So if you actually have a PC that loads slower, you're kind of benefiting. Because you're playing less with that slowdown effect in place. Just kind of made speedruns and timing for this a nightmare over the years, but overall still really fun. We're just going to completely bypass the prison and head into kind of the back half of the game where it gets a little bit more difficult. We're actually gonna make use of how the collision works once again. So we're just gonna get a whole bunch of jumps off of this corner, stack up a lot of speed, and then boost way up here and just skip solving the ladder puzzle. So we get into the morgue. Just trying to clip in certain spots. The flashback speed is kind of weird. There we go. Okay. We haven't really talked about fall damage yet, or damage in general. So fall damage will never kill you in this game, but any damage you take is rolled on certain tables. So like the bigger the fall, the more damage you can take, but not necessarily you will take. And the more damage you have taken, the slower you're gonna move. So whenever you take damage, you can take a lot of damage, you can take a little bit, and just depending on that will affect your speed. So we try to avoid damage as much as possible, but if we do take damage, we want to hope that it's mitigated as much. We're just gonna do a load warp past the monster. And this is where we come back to the textures being very blocky, so I can line up where these two different colored squares are, and then hold into this wall. Even with that setup though, this clip out is very painful. So there's a lot of times you're gonna see I kind of go out of my way, going back to the fall damage thing, to land on certain spots or drop down in a very small manner, so that if I do take hits, it's gonna potentially be a very small amount, not a big deal, but we actually have the laudanum for some of the bigger falls that we don't really have strats around, or if something bad happens. We have some backups. do a safety save here. This is one of the more scary parts when it comes to the run. We need to clip out of this wall and immediately start jumping up the backside of it, otherwise we fall in the void here.
So what happens if you fall in the void?
You just have to reload at that point. Most maps have an autosave, so you just go back to the very start of the map, which is quite a bit of walking, which is why I did a little save. This does not want to boost up. You can actually fall for like 20 seconds or so and then load back, like it just puts you back into the map, but yeah, it's just faster to reload checkpoint. Also, any slope surface has the chance of giving you a boost horizontally. A lot of times we make use of this for boosting, but when we're jumping on these ceilings, if I'm on a slope surface, it just has the chance of sending me straight into the void. So I try to be in the middle where it's flat, or if I am on the edges, I try not to jump as much. The void kind of changes once we get to Rebirth. They changed how falling off the world actually works. It just like instantly warps you back up. Which is pretty nice. It's actually handy in quite a few different situations. So if you ever see a big red screen, that's we've taken a lot of damage, which is no good. We're actually gonna try to line up here so we don't take damage on a really, really big fall. We're gonna try to hit a wall, which is just gonna slow us down. Nope, okay. Big splat, that's fine. There actually was a point in time in this level we're going into the choir, where the strat was to fall into the void so you would warp back to this door, but now we have load warps where we just do the save exit and click on the door. But that was actually the strat. Instead of walking all the way back, it was just to fall into the void and wait the 20 or so seconds. But yeah, we get a little small boost off these little pillar corners here. And this is the third and kind of final hub of the Dark Descent. This is where all the orb pieces are, so we're going to go collect 6 pieces of orb. So we can put it back together. Just because we can't physically progress past it, we don't actually need the orb for its intended purpose in this game, but it loads in a version of a map that lets us continue, so we got to go collect them. We're just going to load orb back. We still need 2 more pieces here. It's just faster to do this. Yeah, this is where all the torturing took place. Every orb piece is by a different form of torture, so you get all these different devices, and you get to relive all of the wonderful memories that you made here with Alexander. If you ever get lost during this part casually, you're supposed to look for these pipes up in the ceiling. Usually it's a little bit darker. I do have the gamma turned up quite a bit, just because we don't get that lantern, and well, I know where we can go to get all this stuff and to do all the tricks. If I don't turn the gamma up, you guys would just see nothing but a black screen pretty much, and that's no fun at all, so. But yeah, that's the whole mechanic of this place, is you're just supposed to look for these pipes to help you navigate this kind of giant open area. Now we're going to take a shortcut over the gap. And you guessed it, we're going out of bounds again. This is a game that doesn't put up too much resistance when you're trying to just clip through stuff. And a lot of this also is reliant on speed. So certain clips, if you don't have enough health, you just don't have enough speed, you just can't clip through the walls, which is really important for kind of the last trick of the run. Most of this can be done on pretty low health, but there are some in particular that if you're just taking too much damage, you just can't progress. So we need to fall here. A little bit of a scary walk off. We need to just hit this corner, take a little damage. Yeah, and this was the one where you would grab this piece, fall into the void, and back to the door that way, but once again, we can just load warp. Actually, gonna do 2 load warps back to back here. Just to skip these stairs. So who wants to walk up a giant flight of stairs? I don't. Might grab another safety laudanum in here. Oop. We're gonna use the very pixelated blocks over here to help line up a clip through this wall. So there's another one, if you clip through and you're not prepared, you will just fall straight into the void. There's actually quite a few of those in the run where you gotta be really, really prepared. Otherwise it can just be disastrous. But we never solved kind of the entry puzzle for this area, which opens the doors to these different areas, so we do have to just make our way out of bounds. It may seem a little weird the way we route in this part, but we're avoiding a lot of flashbacks here by doing it this way. So the more of those we can skip, the better. Once we get all these pieces, we can go to the final area, but it's not properly loaded in just yet. If you go there now, it looks exactly the same, but the events you need to take place will not actually occur, which is a bunch of brutes spawning in, which is the monsters, and they take you to prison, and that's what we need. Okay, just gonna slip through this wall. So I don't want to be spamming jump too much, because then we get too much height and we go flying up in the air, and then we'll take fall damage on the way back down. Which, it's no good. We're kind of talking about, you know, needing to be prepared when you clip out of bounds in certain spots. This is definitely one of them. Right on the other side, there's nowhere to stand. We need to clip out of bounds and immediately jump. So we gotta be a little prepared. So you can see that right here there's just no void. Sometimes there is like invisible collision you can stand on. That is not one of them. One definitely likes to be a bit of a pain. But yeah, now we have all 6 pieces of the orb. We can run over here, and this is going to spawn in the monsters in the chancel. And the quickest way to get to prison is actually just to run away from them. So that will trigger an instant kill. Or an instant knockout in this case. So we're going to spawn them in, run away. And the game doesn't want you to get back to the door. Otherwise it would kind of break everything. So this instant knock you out, take you to prison. Now we need to escape and make our way back to the chancel where we just were. Because that's how we progress to the inner sanctum, which is where Alexander is hanging out. Is this guy, you know? It's kind of a cute little guy. Fun part about this is there's a few different ways you can actually get out this whole area. The way we're going to do it is crouch jumping up here to break this bar. I'm going to use that to push the key through here. If you've played this casually, more than likely used a water bucket to flush the key out, but you can also just jam the iron pipe in there and then push it out too. So the Ash Shadow is really close to us. We're running away. A fun thing to do at the very end of this map is try to avoid the Kool-Aid. We're gonna try to keep our socks dry. See if we can get it today. So there's the dark red cherry Kool-Aid. We're just gonna try to stay out of it. Woo, which we did, okay. So being in water or Kool-Aid just kind of slows you down, so if you can stay on the side. It's a little bit faster. It's always just fun. Not too big of a thing. Everything's getting super intense. Shadows nearby. Final climax of the game is upon us. See all the orb flashes popping up. Yeah, it will just do a little random damage here and there if you're touching it. It doesn't actually do too much, so we don't have to worry about it as far as like speed goes. It's just it's kind of annoying. You know, it's like a mosquito just flying around. It's like, it's not really gonna do too much, but yeah. Try to avoid it at all cost. It also just like moves your camera on its own, which is the more obnoxious thing. Back to the chancel. Now we're also supposed to, I believe, get like a jar of tar to help put the orb together so that we can open up like this portal to go through. So we don't actually need it for that purpose. It's just we can't get this version of the map that lets us progress to the next one without actually having collected all 6. But we can also just walk through this wall. It's not even really a trick, we just walk through it. It's that easy. So a lot of this game just doesn't really put up a fight when it comes to trying to get out of bounds. Be a little safe and close the door behind us, otherwise the shadow will come and kill us if we take too long. So we're gonna heal up because this wall you need a lot of speed to get through. Just pop right past it. So this is where Alexander's hanging out. So he's trying to open up a portal back to his homeworld, which he was kind of banished from. We'll see a little bit more in Rebirth, but we're just gonna knock over these pillars, and that's gonna foil his plan. Not a great plan, but you know. There are multiple endings you can get for the Dark Descent. This just happens to be the quickest one. So that's the first game done. He's just over there floating. He's naked. But yeah, pretty simple ending there. We just foil his plans, stop him from opening a portal, and yeah. We're gonna move on to the standalone expansion called Justine, which really has no connections at all to the main story. But there are some unique things about it as well. So what makes this one super special is it's a permadeath kind of thing. So the scary thing is, if at any point we we die, we have to start from the beginning. There's really only one spot where that really becomes a problem. But yeah, we can't do like load warps because we can't make a save because it's permadeath. So if you know, we just fall into the void, miss a door dive or something, right back here we go. So hopefully we can just do a one and done and out. In this game we play as Justine, who is very psychotic. This is one of, if not like the darkest of the stories. Machine for Pigs has a really dark story, but this one's probably a tad darker. I'm not going to go over it too much because it's really quick, really simple, not going to see a whole lot of it. And I also know a lot of people haven't played this expansion, so if you're looking for more Amnesia stuff to play, check this one out. It's not too long. In total, it's about 4 maps. It's kind of just one puzzle per map. We're just going to bypass that one, though. So when we wake up here, we're actually slowed down, and we need to get our movement speed back, which makes us a little bit of a pain. We're gonna drop here, get our speed back right kind of by this door. And now we need to navigate to the end and hope we don't get just flung off. That slope surfaces have a tendency to just kind of push you into the void. Okay. Different ways and bounds here. We'll just take this way. And that's map 1. So we're going to give map 2 kind of one try here before we take a more safe approach. So, you know, we got to give it a try. This is by far the scariest part, because physics can be a little awkward. So right through here, there is just void, which once again, if we hit, it's permadeath, so we have to start over. But if we clip through behind this bookshelf, we get into the hallway. So we're going to drop this on our head and hope it will push us not straight through the wall, but kind of at an angle. A few different ways to go about doing this. Alright. This run is so short, in total, you know, it's going to take 90% run, under 4 minutes for Justine. A lot of strats for it are just kind of just go for it, and if you don't get it, reset, because it's that quick. But for an entire anthology run where we kind of don't want to fail, they are a little scary, so play things a little bit safer. Okay, so we're gonna need this box. She does not want to jump through the ceiling today. There we go. Okay. Okay. And that's pretty much the scary stuff as far as the run concerns. Map 4 isn't terribly scary, but it does have one of the cooler tricks using this shovel. So the way that this prop's going to work is when we jump on it, we sort of get like attached to it as far as our hitbox goes for a very brief moment. And then when the shovel moves, because we've landed on it, it kind of like will freak out and move around. So we're attached to it, it will also move us around. And it just kind of adds up and sends us flying. So we're going to hopefully jump on this and it'll push us straight through a wall. Right to the end. There's actually a shovel clip like this in The Dark Descent for a while before we just completely routed that out. But yeah, we're going to line this up here. Jump on it and hope it will just force us through this wall. Just like that. Nice. This is actually like a giant crusher room, which is a pretty cool section. But yeah, so we didn't go over the story of this. Basically, we're playing as Justine running through like a test run of all these different traps that she made for some people she's inviting over. I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, it's a very dark story, especially what she's done to some of the monsters down there. And that's Amnesia Justine. So the run doesn't really showcase that one too well. I know that none of the 90% runs do, because we're just completely out of bounds for most of it. But yeah, that one you just got a couple hallways and then it's over. But we're going to move on to A Machine for Pigs. Actually going to load this one from a file just because there's a nice long opening cinematic that we just don't really need to watch every time we do a run. So Machine for Pigs is different from the other titles that we're doing today. It is the only one not developed by Frictional Games themselves. This was developed by the Chinese Room, who, if you're wondering how you know that, well, Still Wakes the Deep, a horror game that came out last year, and the Siren's Rest DLC just dropped in the last couple weeks. That's the same devs. So Frictional Games had them develop this, but it's published by them. And it's under the same universe, and everything kind of features the same sort of lore, which is why it's featured in this. So if you ever played The Dark Descent, you're like, oh, I love this, I want to play more, and you played Machine for Pigs, and you're like, this is kind of different gameplay. That is why, because it's just different devs. The story is also one that's very dark. Chinese Room writes some amazing narratives. Ooh. But the whole physics stuff kind of gets toned down in this game. There's not so many props that we get to move around. Still the same engine though, so it's also still very broken. We can just kind of jump through walls. We can do these fancy door dives just to skip entire levels. Load screens do take a little bit of time. Nothing too crazy, but yeah, we woke up in our house. So we'll get into the story in just a little bit, but this time we are waking up looking for our kids, wondering what happened to them. And we kind of hear this this voice eventually that's going to start kind of guiding us, reliving the events that have already taken place. Just need to do some well-placed parkour, hitting a trigger over the void there. It's going to load us in. It's going to look very similar to The Dark Descent in terms of just clipping through walls, getting on top of the map, and running to the end. And also, we don't pick up the lantern, so it's, once again, very dark. Not just the story, the game is physically very dark. Which can make things a little bit hard to see. This game also does not really feature an inventory system like the Dark Descent does, so there's no laudanum to pick up for health. If we take damage, we just kind of have to deal with it. We do have regen, a health regen that is, so over time we'll get that back. We just need to kind of not take damage. There are certain moments where not only are you just regenerating health over time, the game will just kind of give you a full health status anyways. As long as you hit it. It's usually on like puzzle complete, at least for the Dark Descent. Well, oh, it was. So we're going to put this prop up here, one of the few props we got to make use of. And use that to just make our way out of the map. Kind of a tricky jump over the void here. There's also a lot of phone calls in this that we're just going to completely bypass, so if we take too long, you're going to hear a lot of ringing. Hopefully that won't be the case here. Traverse some invisible walls. Take a little bit of fall damage on these trees. And yeah, the taking damage also makes the game even darker. So in an already dark map, if we take damage, it becomes painfully difficult to find out where we're going, which when we get to the sewers will definitely be the case. Pretty cool little shot here. Also, incredible music in this game. The voice acting and music across these titles is always just so wonderful to experience. So he just sprints kind of in this corner, We're gonna drop through the map. And you guessed it, we're out of bounds. Just gonna make our way straight to the end. What a surprise. Oop. Not only is the voice acting so good, just the lines are really fun to quote. Anytime I do this, there's just certain quotes chat loves to pick up on. Which is, always something a little special.
Water in his shoes. Always the water, and the sparks of the embers of the wheels. It's too bony. It's too damn bony.
It's too damn bony. Alright. So this is a pretty big map that eventually leads into an elevator, which elevators always go hand in hand with horror games. Instead of going through the entire map, though, we're just gonna get launched here, take a big fall. But the next map kind of heals us, so that fall damage just doesn't really matter. And then, you know, the elevator segment. There's certain things that horror games just have to have contractually. I feel like an elevator that breaks. It's kind of one of those things. It's more of a dumbwaiter than an elevator, but essentially the same concept. Whee! Another wonderful phone call we're gonna skip, hopefully. Another giant jump off into the void. Hit a trigger that's going to pull us into the sewer. Is where kind of the scary maps, as far as the run is concerned, start. The sewer, the bilge, the reactor, all very difficult skips to pull off. And we can do them all in a row, which is wonderful. Another wonderful little flashback here. Kind of like in The Dark Descent, we also get slowed down when there's this dialogue going on, so just gonna actually wait this out a little bit before going for the first skip here.
Use this to supplement the steam production and ensure constancy.
God, the stench. This fecal matter is the true product of the age.
Okay. And we're making a safety save, because if I don't actually get out of bounds here, we're going to end up dropping in the sewage. That's just not a good place to be. First try out of bounds. Now we need to navigate to the end of the level. This is where things get a little hard to explain, because being able to see, there's just not a thing over here. So we have to take big falls. The big falls are going to do big damage. The big damage is going to... Oop. Can I recover? No, okay. My foot actually got stuck there. But yeah, we need to fall a very long way. Even if you do this inbounds, you still have to fall down all of these pipes to get to the very end. Which is kind of the gameplay the game wants you to do. But you're also supposed to have things like the lantern to help you out, which we just don't have. So we gotta suffer through the darkness. So just bear with me here for a second. We'll get through the sewer, no problem. We'll make a safety save here in just a second. Funny thing is I actually usually make a safety save once you get past that jump. Okay. There's also a little bit of artifacting that goes on when you're out of bounds like this, so that also does not help see. Do some real big drops. Just drop here. Oop. I know it was really hard to see there, but I actually landed on the edge of a pipe and it boosted me off into the void. Just something you can't really avoid. It's an unfortunate roll of the die. Okay. One final drop, click the door, okay. Through the sewer. We're able to see a little bit yet again. But we're not free from the hard tricks just yet. So we have built-in reactor. Which are both kind of infamous. Maybe some cool shortcuts though. So we're just gonna jump on this railing to get out of bounds. And we can jump back in bounds over here instead of doing a kind of roundabout way. Taking different ladders, clearing different paths. Now we're just gonna crouch jump out of bounds. So I haven't really done too many boosts in this game as of yet, as far as like vertical height goes. We're actually going to do a bunch of jumps off of this girder on the floor and use that to fly up here. Just kind of different setups to go for. Because this is such a small piece of collision, getting height off of it's a little tricky. So there's a couple different setups and go for. This is notorious for just kind of getting you stuck for a for a second. Man, this really does not want to jump here. I make it all the way up top. He's just not playing nice today. Ooh, close. He really does not want to. He really doesn't want to go, huh? Wow. Okay, let's give the other sub a couple tries. Maybe he's filling the curve setup. Wow. There we go. Okay. Yeah, Bilge Boost is probably the most infamous skip for this game because you just spam jump as much as possible and hope the game detects enough jumps to just give you a whole bunch of boost. And then, yeah, it's the game's decision at that point. So now we're going to boost up this little wooden beam on the side. But it's also kind of like pixel thin, so the second the game wants to kick you off of it, it will. We're just kind of spamming jump and crouch, trying to climb it. Fortunately for us, all of the hard tricks are kind of back to back to back. Once we get past this, it's relatively home free until the very end. Okay, we're up here, boost out. So fall damage will never kill us. It can just take us down to very low health, which is fine. We'll take a little bit of damage, but this is still far faster than actually taking the elevator down. Now we need to fix the machine. Take some more damage, why not? Yeah, so we just gotta open that little vent. And I go flip some switches. And we get the most iconic part of this game. We have our first confrontation with the kind of antagonist of the story, which is the engineer. This game also features an orb, a different orb from the first game. There are several orbs in this series. But touching the orb kind of split our soul into two. So we're connected with it now. And the other half's known as the engineer. Long story short, we kind of saw what was going to happen to our kids in the future, the war, and all of like the disease and famine and all of this horrible stuff that we just didn't want the kids to suffer through. So Amandus actually ends up taking their lives, and then in the end he feels bad enough about it that he takes the amnesia mixture so that he can hopefully forget and then seek vengeance on the engineer, which is this other voice that we hear. But in order to seek vengeance, because it is the other half of our soul essentially, we have to seek vengeance on ourselves.
I breathe again. I rise. I will rise to bleach the sky and still the water. I will spin the world wheel and set the future upon the path to redemption.
Where are my children? You promised me my children!
My time is come.
More pig. More pig. And here's our lovely kids.
Boys, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's another big voice line. So we kind of talked about like what happens if you follow the void back in the Dark Descent of like there's an auto save at the beginning of every map, which is kind of the same for pretty much every level in all of these games. That's not true for a couple of them, which this map here in particular is one of those. There's no autosave waking up here. So if we mess up on this map, we'd actually go back to the beginning of the reactor, the previous map, and have to do that skip again, and then sit through the cutscene. So we're going to play it safe and just do a little save. Because while we can kind of just do whatever we want with these games, we can just walk through walls, we can boost up different things like collision. Sometimes the game also just fights back and will either just throw you off in the void if you're on a collision. If you're attempting to go through a wall, it'll just push you a different way. So the game can just like get us soft locked in collision by doing that. It's actually one of those things that can happen in the previous installment, Amnesia Justine, which, because that's permadeath, whenever the game happens to just like force you out of the map and you fall into the void and die, it feels really bad. Actually, is what happened on my casual playthrough of Justine over a decade ago. I was crouching in the corner, hiding from a monster, and I just fell through the world and died. And I didn't get around to playing it again for many years. But yeah, it's not too hard of a jump there, but still going to safety save. Like I said, if we happen to mess that up, we have to go back to the beginning of the reactor. Yeah. There are some monsters in this game. Some nice piggies that we'll see here in just a second, but for the most part, we're just going to completely bypass every interaction with them. That little gate clip right there is where the game loves to just force you into a spot where you can't clip out of. It's also very important to not jump when you're in elevators. So a lot of times what will happen is when you're jumping around these elevators and loading to the next map, you just get forced at like a walking speed instead of a sprint speed, which is really bad, so gotta be a little patient here. Yeah, we're gonna give a little brief glimpse at the monsters of this game. See what they're up to when we're not around. Oh, look at them go. Kind of cute in their own little way. Frictional Games has been making a lot of merch in the last year or so. A lot of like plushes of different characters and stuff. I'm hoping they make some for this game. I love a little pig monster plush. Just look at them, you know? Who doesn't want that on their shelves? So we have a little chase sequence here. So it doesn't really matter how this goes. If he hits us twice, it kind of resets and we have to do it again, so we try not to get hit, but there's not really much we can do. If we get hit once, that's okay. But yeah, the damage does slow us down just a little bit. We'll see if we get any love taps. Oh, there's one. Okay. So like once you get past this gate, you're usually home free, but even once you're past that, they can still hit you, which are kind of obnoxious. Yeah, it's not the end of the world to get hit once there. Now we actually don't have that much more left of this game. Especially not with the skips that we have in place. We can make quick work of the end. So this is also the last one using the HPL2 engine, so once we get into Rebirth, which I believe we'll have a little break on the stream between this and that, that'll be HPL3 where we start using props a lot more. But kind of the same effect, you know, we're still going to be going out of bounds quite a bit. Not really playing the game as intended. Here we're going to boost up this wall. So another little bit of a tricky one. We're just going to use this to jump over an invisible wall here. And this map kind of snakes back and forth as you work your way down. We just jump over the invisible wall and just fall straight down to the end of the map. Into the giant pool of Kool-Aid. Bypassing the pig line there. And then once we get into the bunker later on, it'll also be an HPL 3, but we're doing glitchless tonight. We're not doing any percent, so we're not going to see the super broken category. Actually going to see that one played as intended, but we'll still see the monster about the same as we're seeing them in these games. So a little tease for you there. So past Pigline, we have the Tesla maps. This is where there's like kind of like a boss for this game, more or less, like a electrified piggy monster. We're not really going to see it, but yeah, this is Tesla 1 and 2. Some other cool skips. Tesla 2, not this map, the one after this is Tesla 1, has kind of the... For a while it was thought of as like the hardest skip in the run. I definitely think like Belgian Reactor are up there. This one's usually not too bad, but we will have to make a safety save for it. So another fun elevator ride with the engineer just yapping. Very brief sprint through a couple inbounds hallways here. So we need to get to a very specific spot. There we go. Just kind of get it out. Okay, so we're just going to clip through this by running into it. Clip back through it, which is going to push us down under the map. And we're going to run over top of where that electrified piggy boss is. So you can kind of hear the electricity. Just don't need to actually deal with it. Now on to Tesla 2. So last map before the big walkout at the end. Fortunately, the last map of the game is essentially just holding forward for a couple minutes. We do have a little bit of speed tech, but it's really just a nice cinematic experience. It's actually got a really great speech too. But we're gonna hop out over here, set this up. Wait a second to make a safety save here. Now we need a boost on these pipes over the void, so that's why we're making a safety save. If we just don't get the boost, we fall into the void like that. And then even once we get around these pipes up to the higher spot, we're not done with the actual trick. That's just the ending. There's also this weird thing. It's kind of hard to notice unless you're running the game. Is once you like load into a map, there's a certain time when the game's just going to do like this weird buffer, which sometimes when you go to do a skip, you get that buffer during it, which throws off momentum. But yeah, now that we're past that, we're going to do another save exit. We don't want to have to do that again, and we're not done with the trick. So that just kind of gets it started. We need to finish it, so we're going to hop through this wall. Climb up and use this to navigate to a ladder so we can use that to pull ourselves back in bounds. Took a little damage, but that's okay because we're pretty much done with the game. It's not going to make a big difference. So I click on some crystals. They're charging up. This is going to let us get into the final map of the game. So giant flashbanger.
It is time to end this madness. Lost in the dry paper soul of the world.
Okay, so it's got a long walkout. In the first part, we're on a little conveyor belt, and for some reason, if you tap backwards when you're on that conveyor belt, in a very specific way. Sometimes you can get a speed boost going forward, so you're going to see me kind of do like a stutter step here. Just like tapping back and then holding forward and hoping we get that. There's not really any way to do it 100% of the time. It's just a fun little thing to go for. But once we get to like the final climb, I'll let the game just kind of take over because it's a nice little walkout. But yeah, I mentioned it briefly. The other half of our soul is the engineer, and in order to take out the engineer, we have to take out ourselves. So that's kind of how the game ends, sacrificing ourselves. And this is the engineer's last plea to not do that. Another big revelation drop. So if you played these and you didn't understand the story, I advise either replaying them and taking the time to listen to the stuff, reading the notes, or look up some lore videos on YouTube, because they are terrific stories. It's usually hard to grasp everything that's going on and how deep they actually go when you're just running from monsters and being scared the whole time. But yeah, now we have this wonderful monologue up the temple stairs.
I have stood knee-deep in mud and bone and filled my lungs with mustard gas. I have seen 2 brothers fall. I have lain with holy wars and copulated with the autumnal fallout. I have dug trenches for the refugees. I have murdered dissidents where the ground never thaws and starved the masses into pain. A child's shadow burnt into the brickwork. A house of skulls in the jungle. The innocent Manders trod and bled and gassed and starved and beaten and murdered and enslaved. This is your coming century. They will eat the Manders. They will make pigs of you all, and they will bury their snouts into your ribs, and they will eat your hearts.
Nah, all we need to do to end the game is press the button. And I'm actually gonna prematurely stop it once we do that, because that's where timing ends. And after that, the game goes into a just giant flashes of white light for like 10 seconds. It's quite annoying. But coming up next is Amnesia Rebirth. I do believe we're taking a scheduled break in between that.
Yeah,
click the button.
so we'll have Amnesia Rebirth in 1 moment. Oh, you were saying though?
Yeah, I just gotta click this, and we're done. Take it away, Ek.
All right. Yeah, so we'll have Amnesia Rebirth in 1 moment. We do need to do a quick setup. Before we do set up, though, for just a couple announcements. For one, Black in a Flash is a community that uplifts and connects Black speedrunners of all levels, hosting special events throughout the year to raise money for charity and celebrate Black voices in the speedrunning scene. Learn more or apply to get involved at gdq.gg/BAF and follow at blackinaflash.bluesky.social on Blue Sky for the latest updates. As always, we have our Summer Hotfix merch collaboration live over at theyeti.com/GDQ. You can check out our new Hotfix shirt, keychain, and sticker pack. Anyway, we'll be right back really quick with Amnesia Rebirth. All right, everyone, we're back from the break, and we are right back into it. We are continuing the Amnesia Anthology with Amnesia Rebirth. I'll let Blood Thunder tell you more about that, and we'll resume the timer when he's ready.
Yep, so we're just going to load this one from a file as well, because there's a giant cutscene at the beginning of this where we are on a plane setting up the stages, but yeah, it takes a very long time, so runners just will load from a file. So once we get into this, it's going to get a little spooky. Get ready for some jump scares. We'll start there. This is the story of Tassie Trion. We're going to be running through the desert this time around. We'll talk all about it here in just a second, but time will start in 3, 2, 1. Jump scare.
Don't lose it. No, no, come on. Need to find him. He must understand. Don't forget. It's her. It's all because of her. Focus. I am Tessie. I am still Tessie.
We're waking up in the wreckage of the Cassandra. It's the plane we were on, and it went down. So just like the other games, some stuff has already happened, and we are going to be reliving the events to try to figure out what's gone down. First, we get some laudanum in our system. This game kind of brings back a little bit of the inventory system. There's not a whole lot we'll actually pick up and keep, but we will make good use of just the inventory tech itself. So we'll see here shortly. So this game's flashbacks aren't like the flash a light and then you slow down. You actually get these giant pop-ups, a little nice illustration, and some voices, which we can also just skip, which is a really nice thing they added in for us. You can also see our body in this game. Pretty big change.
What happened?
That's for a very good reason, which we'll get to in just a little bit. First, we need to get off this plane.
My handwriting.
And we're gonna grab a prop. So this is the HPL3 engine. Talked about it briefly before, but yeah, a big change in this one is the fact that props are incredibly broken thanks to what's known as the regrab glitch. So whenever you grab a prop and you try to intersect with yourself, you know, the collision can overlap, but if you re-grab, the game doesn't like that. It will try to separate the collision, and a lot of times that's going to just eject you from where the prop is. If we're standing on top of it, it's going to eject us upwards, kind of, so you can use this to prop fly. Pretty popular trick amongst speedruns. You can also see our shadow at the top right, which is a fun thing to see. So we get to see our own body, which is fun, but we also get the shadow. But yeah, you're going to see a lot of prop flying, and you're also going to see a lot of prop clipping, because if we use the regrab glitch against like a wall or a door, we can use that to just force our way out of bounds. Because walls are a little bit trickier to just walk through in this game, as it was in the previous entries. We still can in certain areas. It's not a done dealio, but to avoid fall damage, we could just like crouch down, like fly the prop down, or we can just fall and then right at the end open our inventory, which cancels all momentum, and then close it, and we just land safely with no damage. So anytime you see me pull up my inventory, it's pretty much for that reason of just not taking damage. Because once again, damage just means that we're going to move slower, which is pretty handy. So this is one of the flashbacks that is kind of like the old Dark Descent ones, where we get a little text, but it's not lasting too long then. A lot of these maps are kind of just find the nearest prop, and then once you do that, you can use it to kind of escape. But this map actually has one of my favorite skyboxes in any game that I run. It's just like such a nice deep purple. It's so soothing when you're just breaking out. Nice scenic view. So they also changed the way that like falling into the void works. If you fall for too long in this, it will just kind of warp you back to the spot you're at, which you might see here. If I can get this pillow properly to clip me, we won't see it, but okay. For future spots we might. So if you fall far enough into the void, it's like, okay, where's the last spot you're standing? We'll warp you there. But yeah, we clip in that way. The pillow. Well, get our amulet. This is going to allow us to transfer ourselves between worlds. Here there's different little portals we can access. And we're going to talk about the Shadow World here in just a second. We mentioned it very briefly in the Dark Descent. While all of the stories have really no overlap, in terms of like their main story, that is, Rebirth really expands upon the world that they're all set in. So we're just going to follow under the map here and run. So we're now in like the other world, the Shadow World. This is where all the orbs come from. This is Alexander's from the Dark Descent's homeworld, which common theory is that he was banished for some stuff he was doing, sealed away, and he was trying to get his way back to get some power. But yeah, so like the engineer orb from Machine for Pigs also comes from here. And if you've played the bunker, there is a nice part of that, which we'll get to, in the Roman tunnels, which also kind of turns back from all the lore here, which is really cool. Which is why I think this game is kind of underrated. The main story, I get why people have problems with, but just the world building it does in general is pretty dope. So we're underneath the map. We're not supposed to be here, obviously, and it's also not going to load in any of the textures or the lighting, which is why it's super dark. We're going to try to find our way to the exit without actually being able to see anything. I'll make a little safety save just in case, because there's a chance you get stuck in a spot, which if that happens, we have to do this entire run all over again. And we don't want to do that. So we're going to climb this giant mountain. Let's try to use the outline of the rocks to kind of gauge where we are in the world. You can also hear the amulet kind of spin up from time to time. The more noise that's making, the closer you are to one of the portals, which is typically the end of a level. Or sometimes we just go through in the middle, but for the speedrun, it's pretty much going to be the end of a level. So I'm going to try to fall twice here. Try to avoid damage if we can. These are really small falls, so they're pretty quick on the inventory. We may have actually gotten stuck. Let's see. No, we're fine. Okay. So we just need to run over here. You can really hear the amulet spin up. Some rocks start moving. Portal opens, and we're out. Now we're gonna go into a little dream sequence. We got a handful of these from Tassie's perspective, but yeah, we're gonna use props just to clip through this door. This level's a lot of just like clicking stuff, remembering a couple things about her life, and then the door will open. But yeah, if we intersect ourselves when the chair has no collision, and then re-grab it, do the re-grab glitch, it will just push us through the door. I'm here. So you're going to see that in prop flying quite extensively in this game. So if it wasn't as evident by the title, Rebirth, this game deals a lot with Tassie and her children. So one other thing about the other world, the Shadow World, whatever you want to refer to it as, it's theorized that time just works differently there. So, while Tassie was slightly pregnant, she's now quite a bit along. And every time we go back to the Shadow World and come back to the normal worlds, a lot of time has gone past. So even though this seems like a really short time that we're playing as Tassie, especially for the run, you know, we're gonna go through the whole stages of pregnancy, and I do mean all of them. So we actually do have the lantern in this game, once we get to a certain point. But we also have these matches, which we can pick up along the way. We don't really need them for much. There is one little puzzle where we're going to need a match just to kind of start a fire. But we use that to starve off the darkness. In the other games, darkness kind of affects your sanity, but that doesn't really do a whole lot. It just makes the game a little creepier. This game, if you're in darkness for too long, your sanity will actually hurt you and eventually kill you. So we just don't want to succumb to the darkness there. That's really the only time it's ever potentially an issue. You kind of see that's like a tick of sanity damage. But kind of being by a light resets it temporarily. And then we're just going to once again find the nearest prop and use that to either prop clip or prop fly. Ooh, got stuck behind me. See, the smaller a prop is, the harder it is to use for flying. Especially if you're trying to go fast and like sprint. It can get stuck on stuff. It will sometimes just kick you off of it. For the most part though, the props we have along the way are relatively nice. There are some nasty ones that we'll get to later on. These lids are not terrible, but yeah, we're just gonna use this to get to the end. Go prone so we can click on the door. Proning is new to the series at this point. You could crouch before, but you can actually go like a full prone mode. Which is really only used in the run to click on that door, so you need to get a little closer. Also, a new mechanic is checking on the baby. So, we talked about like being in the darkness affects your sanity. You're supposed to be able to check on your baby and comfort it, connect with it to restore your sanity. That's never really a thing we're going to do. The game does have some moments where it forces you to do those little baby checks, like that one. But not too many of them. Just find the nearest prop and hover our way to freedom. So that's what we're doing here. And so while A Machine for Pigs was kind of different in its gameplay, it doesn't really have like hubs and puzzles to solve, Rebirth brings that back a little bit. Coming up is one of the cooler areas of the game. It actually is just like the hubs in the Dark Descent, so we have a whole bunch of items to collect, a puzzle to solve, in kind of a contained little area. Just need to run around, pick all that stuff up. It's also when you kind of first start seeing some monsters along the way, but we're going to need a key from inside the tank. I'm going to make really short work of this area, thanks to the props. This is one you're supposed to kind of run through, get a little chase sequence, and then you come back to get your prop. We can just get the prop along the way, or not the prop, the item. So we're just going to use all these props to get there, though. Just bypass a large chunk of the game there. Chairs are not nice for clipping. The more like solid a prop is, the easier it is to clip with. There's the item that we need from the area, and then we're just going to clip through the wall. And click on the exit door. So usually casually that part takes a very long time because you're running from the monster, trying to break the floor with like the cannon, do all of this stuff, and yeah, we just use 4 prop clips. Get what we need, and now we're over here. So another thing about flashbacks in this, if they happen, is you can't interact with anything, so we can't leave the level here. Just gotta kind of wait for it to go through. You also get a lot of information through these little loading screens, kind of like in A Machine for Pigs. But we're just gonna bypass those as well. Now there's a few different ways you can go about getting into this area where the next item you need is, but we can grab this through the wall. We can't break this wall from the side we're on, but we can use the proper holding, throw it against the wall, and break it from the inside. It's pretty nice. Get what we need. And this is where we're going to need one of our matches to start a fire so we can cook the sulfur ointment. Let that cook. You actually really don't need to put the lid back on that, but it does make it cook a little bit quicker. Not sure why that's coded in that way, but yeah, that cooks a little faster if you close the lid, and the charcoal will actually grind a little faster if you close that hatch. So you gotta be a little efficient along the way. We're using all of this to make a tank shell for the tank outside, so we can blast down the gate and continue on to the mountain village. So the way this part works is to get into the next level, we just need to fire the shell. It doesn't matter where we're aiming. We don't actually need to fire it at the door. And then leave the tank as quickly as possible. So as soon as we click this, it starts loading the next part. Yeah, the game's going to tell you, like, shoot it at the door, it just doesn't matter. As long as you shoot the shell and click leave the tank, you'll just progress. We got a little beans cutscene. So you're going to notice Tassie kind of takes a lot of spills. She gets crushed a lot, falls all over the place, and keeps getting healed. It's because of the entity known as the Empress. She's kind of the ruler of the Shadow World. And it turns out the one thing that she really wants more than anything else is an heir. But she cannot have a child of her own. And she notices that when the Cassandra plane crash happens, that when the survivors, including Tassie, show up to her, that she has a child. So she makes her a deal. She says, give me your child and I will heal everybody. And you can, you know, you can live. And Tassie does not like that. So it really becomes a question of how much would you give up to save your child? You know, would you give up the life of your colleagues, your friends, even your own husband, and potentially even yourself? So we're just gonna do a whole bunch of falls to get to the end of this map. Horrible skybox there, by the way. That green is just disgusting to look at. But yeah, that choice is kind of how things at the beginning start unfolding. Once she makes her choice to keep the child, she makes her way back to the plane wreckage. And actually all of the people you meet along the way are the surviving members of the plane wreckage that have kind of started to become monsters and are very angry and upset with your decision. But we're gonna have some forced baby checks here. Boop. A lot of times if we let the game just force us to check on the baby, it'll actually go through a little bit of a dialogue. But if we check on it right when it says that we should, we can actually skip that forced dialogue and save a little bit of time. Do some cheeky jumps here, just to get out of bounds. So this is the part of the game where the Empress kind of starts revealing herself once again to you. This ghostly figure.
Who are you? What do you want?
She's trying to guide you back to her so that she can once again take your child. And we also mentioned back in the Dark Descent kind of using slopes to boosts. There's not many spots where we can do that post the Dark Descent. This is one of them, and hopefully I can get a good boost here because it's always a fun one to show off. I wish this route and this run had more because they're fun to do. The bunker will also have one, but yeah, we're gonna try to hit a slope surface at just the right way. And then spam jump. Woo. Take a whole bunch of damage along the way, but it's fine. No big deal.
I really don't like this.
And once again, we're just gonna fall.
No. Fuck. No. No.
So now we're kind of into kind of the back half of the game, where it becomes more about learning kind of about the Empress and the Shadow World
So close.
and all of the
This place now.
world buildings done here. But we're gonna have another quick baby check. Oop. Skip some dialogue. And now the next map is the most important map in the game. It's not like a hard map or anything, but it's what really is going to save us time later on. So we do have an inventory system. And this is where the game starts introducing these batteries along the way. Through a puzzle. I'm going to clip this door real quick. You're supposed to go and get these 2 batteries so that you can do this puzzle here and learn about how the teleportation works with the orb. Once again, we have an orb. But we can actually take the 2 batteries, keep them in our inventory, and then just not use them here and save them for later. Which is what is really going to save us a bunch of time. So there's some really big fetch quests later on, involving several maps that we just get to completely skip by having these batteries. This guy's going to have a real bad day. We gotta look at kind of the world the orbs come from. And now we have the batteries. Instead of doing this whole puzzle, we're just going to prop clip our way in and leave. So what just happened there, which we're going to bypass in future maps, is actually the shadow, which we saw in the Dark Descent, which was chasing Daniel and had like all the fleshy red goop all over the place, started appearing there behind us. And there's supposed to be a chase sequence in the next map where you see more of it. It's just kind of like the guardian of the orb we picked up. Which is a nice little throwback, but yeah, the run's not really gonna mess with that at all. It does make another brief appearance, but not a big deal. Another big flashback for Tassie here. So one of the reasons, not really one of, but the main reason that Tassie doesn't want to give up her unborn child she said is because she already had a child that got sick. Elise here sadly passed away before the events of the game. So she's already lost one child. She really does not want to lose another one. So you get a peek into the prior events. It's hard to fully comprehend what's going on with the story when you're playing it casually, if you're not taking the time to like read all the notes, because you're just like, oh, I'm scared of these monsters that we're also not seeing at the moment. We're just not exploring fully. Which is a bit of a shame, because there is some cool lore. So yeah, we went through the other world, the Shadow World once again. More time has passed. We have become pretty pregnant at this point. You know. Baby's grown quite a bit. But I see a comment in chat saying, what's the reason they're becoming ghouls? The surviving members of the Cassandra plane wreckage drink some water from the other world, which, when you drink that, starts transforming you into a ghoul, pretty much. Which, spoilers, is kind of also the lore behind the bunker. So that lore does come back, which is really cool. So yeah, we're going to not deal with the chase sequence in this map. We're going to actually clip a prop out of bounds here. Just kind of wiggling it back and forth. Lantern that we never quite picked up. Do a safety save. You're supposed to get this lantern when you find your husband, who is also deceased at this point. The game actually will just give us the lantern, which is pretty nice. Otherwise, the darkness and the sanity would be a problem for this prop, however. Yeah, we're doing a safety save because this prop is very unkind. It does not like to be prop flown on, especially when you do it fast. So a bunch of winding paths that we're just going to cut a line through. And make our way to the exit. So now we're going into kind of what's like another hub, where you're repairing this giant teleportation portal. Kind of like what you saw in the alchemist lab before, where we grabbed the 2 batteries. It's like a miniature version, and this is used to teleport you around the area. But it is currently not powered, so we're going to go through the steps. And the reason the batteries from the Alchemist Lab save so much time is once we get this up and running, one of the batteries is going to be broken, and we're supposed to go and do this giant fetch quest to find one, involving like a giant area where there's just a bunch of monsters, a chase sequence, all of this wonderful stuff, a dark labyrinth. But because we brought the 2 batteries with us, we just get to completely bypass that part of the game, saving like 15 minutes, even with like actual speedrun strats. It is pretty nice. And then we have an extra battery for skipping the end of the game as well. So now we're on a timer in this area before a phone call comes in, so we need to do this puzzle before that happens. Since it is moving stuff manually, it's a little faster to use props to interact with the world, so we're just gonna spin this using this sandbag. Solve the puzzle, which is always the same. And then we're going to prop fly out of here. So the phone call still should come in. It'll probably happen before I get over to where I need to go. Oh, okay. So now we can't interact with anything, so we're actually going to fall into the void here. We get a little look into how it works, you know. So it warped back to like kind of the last spot the game recognizes as standing, and fall damage cancels out the phone call. So now we can just click on this door and leave. We also don't want to just run back through the hallway we came through. There's another baby check that is forced, and it is pretty lengthy. Which is why we do the out of bounds part. So we can skip the phone call, which is also pretty lengthy, and the baby check. So now we've powered up the machine, we just need to kind of turn the dials to get it focused. So this is the mountain village that we're trying to get to. Tass is trying to use it to teleport there. However, it's going to break, like I said. So where the game's like, alright, go find a battery. Good luck. But we just remove the dead one, plug in one of the 2 that we have, and redial. You always just have to spin these a full circle. Don't really have to worry too much about memorizing how much to spin it. It's always just a full 360. Really simple to remember. Game's also not really picky. If you get close enough, it'll just kind of put it at the right value. So the whole reason we're trying to get to the mountain village is to find the doctor, who's going to help us with the baby. But the game has other plans, because of course it does, you know, it can't be simple. So the shadow's going to show back up and kind of send us to somewhere else. So instead of the mountain village, we're just going to go deeper into the shadow world. So these are little like energy pylons, so you can use, you can see like the lines coming off of it. It's used to power different areas, connect power from one room to the next. We don't ever really do that. We might do it one time in the next part to avoid a annoying clip, but just use these primarily to clip the walls, as one does. Wisdom full damage, and then click on the door to the end. So no, we haven't really seen them, but there are monsters in this game. We'll actually see one in this next map. There's just, unfortunately, no way around it. And then from here on, the game actually gets incredibly difficult for the run. All of the hard tricks in this run are at the ends. And they just kind of get harder as they go for a number of different reasons, which we'll talk about when we're doing them. But we're just going to clip in. We actually need one of these energy pylons to power up the tram. But as soon as you move it into the middle of the room, it activates the whole like alarm system, and a monster comes. And we're going to try to deal with that as little as possible. So it's going to connect. We're just going to get it around the corner. Going to break free of the monster. And just take this and run. Once we're past here, the monster just doesn't care anymore. And we're going to... For some reason, there's a certain spot down here that connects. Whoop. It's going to power that up. Gonna try this clip. This clip is really annoying. These props are not great for this. Alright, second try. Otherwise, we could just run back. It's not too bad. It's going to move us into kind of an auto-scroller level. And normally, it's a lot of just waiting around. Luckily, we have ways around that. We don't have to... Don't want to be trapped in here for too long. So while most of this does just have collision, if you get up and above these little like wooden metal panels, there's actually no collision above these. For the most part, we can't jump over these, right? We just don't have the ability to. Even though a crouch jump like this does give you more height, which is something that we'll exploit in the bunker. At the very top of the climb that we're going to do here, there's a brief moment where the game's going to give us extra height on our jump, and that's going to be enough to get over this. So once it starts going up here in a little bit, we can time our jump just right to get on the outside of this little train here. So I also need to line up in a good position. Gonna use these blue lights as an indication. So we've passed 3, gonna safety save. So only get one shot at this. There's a second spot way further in the auto scroller where you can also do this, but it's just better if we safety save here. Not a particularly difficult jump, but it is something you have to time, so there's always a chance of it going wrong. Okay, first try, so we're just gonna hang out on the outside of this. It's gonna continue to move. It's gonna move us with it. We don't really have to worry about falling off. I've never actually had her fall off here, but she does like scramble quite a bit, which is really scary. A little nerve-wracking, but yeah. In all the runs I've done, I've never actually seen her fall off, so it's perfectly fine. The game's gonna tease you with like a portal opening here, because your amulet gets close enough. Unfortunately, that's not actually a valid exit, even though we are out of bounds. If we go over there, it's not actually a way out. We are going to drop off though, grab a jiggly rock, and use this to fly to the real exit.
Come on, open up. How do I get the doors open on this thing? No. No. Stop, goddamn you, stop! Take us back! Shit.
So depending on the triggers that I hit along the way here, we'll see varying degrees of stuff actually load back in. Sometimes we'll have basically nothing loaded back in texture-wise. Sometimes we'll have a little bit of like the floor and the door frame. We're just gonna fly over here. Oop. So the things that you can't see is there's a door here that we need to click. There's also 2 rocks in front of it that we need to drag out of the way. So we can open the door, sneak behind it, and click on the exit door. So sometimes you get here and you can't even see the door frame or any of the floor. You just have to kind of know where to look. But yeah, now we're going to have some tricky levels. We're back to using this little container lid. Yeah. Not only clip out of bounds, we need to bring it out of bounds with us. Just gonna skip this whole monster stealth part. Be careful not to sprint here, because we need to gain some height. We're not really gonna go over it story-wise, but all of these little pods that you see, every one of those is a person being tortured for energy. And there's a lot of them. But that's kind of what the whole world is powered on. It's also kind of also tied back to the Dark Descent and the reason that Alexander was torturing people for their energy. That's how the Empress is sustaining her life. She also has a sickness. There's a lot going on here. We just don't have time to go into all of it. We'll use that to get to the very end of this map. And now at this point in the game, we've been in the other world for so long that Tassie is so incredibly pregnant that she can no longer jump, which is our main way of gaining height when we're doing these prop hovers. So now the 2 prop hovers that we have to do here, one in this map and one in the next, we can't jump, which makes them much more difficult.
It's all right, little one.
Gaining height with props without jumping is quite annoying, and they're also really obnoxious props. So I need to get on top of this rocking horse and pull it into ourselves so it forces us up. But doing this, it also makes it incredibly unstable. And the reason we're prop hovering instead of just going to that window, which should start like the cutscene, is there's actually a body of water up here that's loaded in that if we hit, puts us in the end of the cutscene instead of the beginning of it. Which forces us into the next map. And yeah, now for the hardest prop hover in the game, we have to use a water canteen, which is really unstable. We can't jump.
Marie,
And we need to gain a lot of height.
Shit. Not yet. Not yet, please. Please. A little one.
So actually now at the mountain village we were trying to get to before, this is where the doctor is. And normally if you just run through this level, there's a lot of just waiting around, stuff happening with the baby, contractions, all that fun stuff, which is why we're going to attempt to skip it. Also our movement speed's kind of lowered, so that also does not make the hover any kinder. Here's the canteen, it's awful. We're gonna try to use it here. Ooh, this is a really weird angle. Uh-oh. Okay. I have to run diagonally on this one. If I get enough height, we can just hook a hard left and just kind of play it safe, but we need to gain at least that amount of height. So while I'm holding this, I can actually use the mouse wheel to like push and pull it closer or further away. So if I notice she's just not gaining any height, I will either use mouse wheel to pull it a tick in, which is a little bit closer, or push it a tick out and hope that is enough to force the game, but we're out. So it wasn't a great way to grab the prop. So we're just going to run. It's a little faster if you get a really good hover just to go up and over the rocks. We're just going to run around instead. Just play with this in the meantime. Whee! You can see the town over there on our right-hand side. Seems bypassing all that. We need to be really careful not to run too far, right? There's a giant pit that we don't want to fall into. I'm not sure why there's a giant pit there on the map, but there is. We're gonna run straight into the very end trigger of this level. Just running away from one of our friends who has turned into a ghoul. Actually, I don't need to do anything fancy to get back to the map. We can just run right through here. So actually going to run straight into Yasmin. So once we do that, it's considered over. You don't want to actually run away. Here comes the doctor. The very creepy... Definitely nothing wrong with him, doctor. It's time for everyone's favorite part of this game. Everyone's favorite part of the run.
It's all right. It's all right. I'm here. I've got you.
So in this giving birth moment of the game, there's not really much you need to do, but there's like different pushing segments which you can hold forward to push, where the camera just kind of changes and she yells more. You don't actually have to do that at all, but in between those moments you do have to look at his face. You have to focus on him. And the game loves to lower your sensitivity here to make it really hard. And usually I play it like 800 to 1000 DPI on my mouse. For this part in particular, I bump it all the way up to 25,000, which you can see how fast the mouse is moving now. This is at 25,000, just to make it easier to look at his face in between these pushing segments. It's the only reason I could ever find you'd want to play at 25,000 DPI, just for this one moment. Yeah, he's gonna help us deliver the baby. but he is a surviving member of the Cassandra plane wreck as well, and he was there when we made the deal, or didn't make the deal with the Empress, and so he's a little upset with our choice to forsake everyone's lives for her baby. And he's kind of made his own deal with the Empress, saying, I will give you the baby if you, like, spare me. So, he has his own intentions. He's just gonna put our pants back on and then dip out.
Well done, Miss Triana. You have given us hope.
Please. Let me hold her.
For you, the child comes before everything else, even the lives of your friends. Your husband, all she wanted was the child. Just that.
No!
We could have gone home, if not for you. So, now, I must do what you would not. If we are to be cured against our lives, what is one child?
Fucking dare!
Could so meet if me now.
So a little bit of newly gained mom strength, but also along the way, Tassie is also turning into a ghoul. She also drank the water that the Empress led you to believe was perfectly fine to drink. There's a lot of hints along the way as well of Tassie becoming a ghoul. All the way back to where the tank was, where we had like the first hub section. There's a well you can drink from where she says, I'm not even thirsty after being in the desert for this long, which is you know, quite strange. But yeah, he's gonna run away. He's actually a really slow runner, which is nice for us. And we're gonna give chase. But we're pretty close to the end of this game, not too much more, and then we gotta run through the bunker. So that one will be glitchless and not the 80%, so you know, like wow, I wonder what these runs are like when you're not just clipping out of bounds. I've actually done a full Amnesia Anthology glitchless before. You can find that on my YouTube. I've also done the entire Frictional Games Anthology, which is all of these titles, plus Soma and the Penumbra series, glitchless as well. Also all of this glitched. If you like these series of games, I've run all of them. Different categories. As well as many other games. I'll actually be running Indiana Jones and the Great Circle at SGDQ coming up on Sunday, as well as Doom the Dark Ages. Amnesia the Bunker currently is on backup for SGDQ. Hopefully it gets pulled. It's actually been on backup for the past 4 events, so it's always right there. You'll get a little teaser of what a GDQ run of it could be today, but you know, maybe one day I'll get them proper. So we're still keeping up with them. One more portal into the other world.
Don't do this!
Whee! Now we were supposed to lose our lantern back in the auto-scroller level that we bypassed. If we pull it out here, we get a voice line saying, I wish I had the lantern still, which can override other voice lines going on. Pulled out a second late. But yeah, you can skip this a little bit of a flashback with the lantern, which is kind of nice. But if you actually lose your lantern before, then you just can't do that. Unfortunately. It's one of those, you know, if you get it, it's cool, but if you miss it, it's not too big of a deal. One last big map before the end. So he's going to take the elevator up. And we need to give chase. And we're going to do that by going out of bounds. One of the few times where we can just run through the wall instead of having to use a prop. We're just gonna yank this prop through the ceiling. And then we're gonna use this. We can jump now that we're not pregnant. We have our jumping back, and we're just gonna use this to climb. This is also not a great prop. It is very prone to just like turning on you and dropping you off if that happens. We do have a backup, but hopefully we won't need it. I actually need to jump out a little bit, because I don't want to hit my head here. Fixing the elevator and actually riding it all the way up, it doesn't take that much longer than actually prop hovering up here. It's a little bit cooler of a route. Okay. So if you've been paying attention, you may recall that we still have an extra battery that we have not spent. This is the end of the game where you're going to make different decisions, and one of those decisions that you can make is the ending to take your baby and go back to Paris via one of the like orb teleporters. However, there's a battery missing, and you're supposed to go deal with the doctor and the Empress and get a battery from that area. But we already have one, so we can skip the entire ending. We'll be taking the Paris exit out. And we're also not supposed to have our lantern at this point. So if we hold it when we teleport here, some weird things happen where instead you're supposed to be holding the baby. For some reason, holding the lantern or even a match will cause this to be a little goofy.
She's gone. She's gone. It's all right, Amari. She's gone.
So no baby there, and then baby comes back. All right. That is the end of Amnesia Rebirth. So there are different endings, but that's just the quickest one to take for any percent here. We're back in Paris, and you know, the fate of Tassie and the baby are left open to what happens. Most endings are pretty bleak because you don't ever really cure the ghoul disease, but we're gonna boot up the bunker, take a nice little quick journey. With the monster. So we're not showing the 80% run of this because it's 40 seconds of gameplay. And it's a little bit more fun to show off the full thing. Still very quick though. Still very much not what you'd see in a casual playthrough. So we're going to click New Game. There are actual difficulties on this one. For the sake of this, we're doing it on very easy. But if you'd like to see this done on the hardest difficulty, on the Shell Shock difficulty, I've also done a run of that. You can find that on my YouTube channel as well. Just go to YouTube, type in Blood Thunder Speedruns or Blood Thunder Amnesia the Bunker. Should pop up. Got hundreds of videos, speedruns of all sorts. I run over 80 FPS horror puzzle games. Got all of these. And time will start in 3, 2, 1. Indiana Jones and Doom the Dark Ages are runs I'm doing for Summer Games Done Quick, coming up next week. Done the Bioshocks, Wolfensteins, Outlast, some Resident Evils, and a whole bunch of indie stuff here and there. If you like any of those, you can check me out on YouTube, or you can come over to Twitch, where I stream pretty much every day. Gonna be doing some more grinding over the next couple days for GDQ. But I want to take the night to show you these fantastic games. We're waking up in the bunker. Some stuff has happened. Caused us to lose our memory. One thing you may notice, it may come through the stream, it may not, but this is the first of the title that actually lets you play it above 60 frames per second. All of the other games and their engines are tied to 60 frames. Even if you play it something higher than that, the game pretty much just runs at 60. This one lets you run at 120, which is really nice. It feels really, really smooth when you get here. We also get a gun. A couple bullets. We're going to make good use of that. And this is really just one big hub where we're trying to escape. We need to get dynamite and a TNT handle. But we need some other items along the way. And things are semi-randomized in the bunker, including these codes. Alright, 1607. We also have a generator that we need a little bit of fuel on to progress certain quest lines. But on this difficulty, that should be more than enough to last us the entire game. We also have a little save system and this lantern. Alright, we got a grenade. That's good. Grenades are the most useful thing we can find. So we're going to make a save here, not for a safety reason, but we're actually going to save scum a whole bunch of stuff. So while codes are randomized in the bunker, once you have a code, it's set for that file. So this is 6574. You can actually load that save. Go back to the safe house, which gets a little closer to the locker room. It also keeps all of our resources. Anything we spend, we get back, so we can save scum all of that, including the fuel, which is why we only need 1 or 2 fuel cans for the entire run. I always spin these the wrong way. Get our handle. That's kind of our first quest. Once we have this, it's going to let the monster kind of start roaming around. However, we're probably not really ever going to see him. There is one chance that he pops up. So this quest opens up all the doors to the sub-areas, which is where we need to visit and progress different little sub-quests. So I'm going to save again, once again, mainly for save scumming reasons. And we're going to go down into communications because we need to get a code for the arsenal down here. So we need the power on for daisy chaining the power to the radio, which is how we get the code. We actually need to turn these on. There's also a key we need to find. There's 18 different spots it can be in. 3 spots per bunk bed. It's right there. Okay, it's pretty good luck. 6 different bunk beds. We got our key. Let's go flip some switches. No rats in the way. Nice. So that's our second bullet shot. We used one at the very beginning, but because we're going to save some, we actually get this bullet back, so we're going to spin it there freely. You can hear the monster running around, desperately trying to find a way to spawn into the map. We're just moving so quickly, making so much noise that he doesn't really know how to get to us. Gotta open this with the key. And that's a common trend. If you play slow, it's very easy for him to path to you, but if you're just like sprinting around from area to area, he doesn't know where to go. Alright. 241. So while it is a 4-digit code, we just need the first 3 because we can just spin the last one and brute force it. So that's going to be the arsenal code for later. We're going to go get another code in the maintenance area. And this is where having a grenade comes in handy. You're not always guaranteed to get one. Sometimes you can have like 3 or 4 by this point. But 1 should be enough. There's a cheeky little way to throw a grenade over here. To break down 2 walls at once. Just gonna try to... Oh, I actually got a grenade there. That's perfect. Oh, that's a gas grenade. That's not perfect. We need that to break this door and a wall as well. Got it. Otherwise, we need a second nade to break that wall, or you can go get a key. That's a little slow. Grenades is a little bit faster. And all we need up here is this code. Is that a 4? 0454. Let's see. Okay. So instead of running all the way back, once again, we can just save scum. Right back here. That's going to get us the wrench. Let's see if that was a 4 after all. 0454 it was, okay. So the wrench is kind of the first of the key items that we need. The wrench is going to get us the bolt cutters, and the bolt cutters are going to get us the, like, explosive handle. The arsenal code that we got will get us into arsenal, which is where the dynamite is, so... Just kind of progressing both things at once. We need to find a brick here. It's probably at the end of the hallway. It's actually right here, perfect. So we just simply don't have enough time in this run to go over all of the the ways that the game is randomized. But even with worse luck, there's always a way through it. There's always certain items that you can find along the way. Key items are always spawned in the same spot. Like the wrench stuff is always in the locker. Okay, this is where the monster can be a little bit unpredictable. We're probably just gonna have to shoot him in the face with a bullet. So we open up the door to the prison, the prisoner, which is where the bolt cutters are. He actually spawned in such a bad spot. Okay. So I just need to get behind him and we'll shoot him on the way out. Come on, buddy. I just need him to pick either direction. He's instantly losing track. Okay. Okay, buddy. Can you move? Okay. he just wanted to kind of have the spotlight for a minute. You know, it's fine. But yeah, now we have our bolt cutters. We can kind of wrap things up. We just have to go and get the 2 remaining things. So you can't ever actually kill the monster, the beasts, but doing enough damage and he will just retreat for a little bit. Harder difficulties, he has a faster recovery speed. So on this difficulty, he should take a little bit of time. We probably won't ever see him again. Now we use our arsenal code, which is 2, 4, 1, and then we're just going to spin the last dial until we hit it. So depending on how many grenades you have found at this point, you can take different routes through here. Also, if you have the bullet, you can blow up that explosive right there. But it's just not our luck today. Can we find a grenade in here? Kind of clean out some pathways here. So yeah, those boards take a little bit of time to pull off one by one, but if you throw something into the boards, they like break instantly. So here's the dynamite. Got that. So now we need to go to the tunnels so we can get the TNT handle. Which, if you're here for Rebirth, I also kind of mentioned the tunnels when we were talking there. Tunnels is where it kind of ties back in. Oh, that actually didn't blow up. Okay, we'll run out this way. So it's another spot where the other world, the Shadow World, kind of leaks into this one. And there's some water that's being consumed. We need to flip a switch. Whoop. Just gonna give the power for the water pump. unfortunately this run's just too short to kind of go over all the cool details about the lore. There's some wonderful YouTube videos on it out there, if you're really curious. Just gonna move this out of the way. Okay. So the beast is not the only enemy in this game. There's also the shotgunner, who is not scary on this difficulty, but on Shell Shock he's just more terrifying than the beast because he can one-shot you. And this whole area is really trippy, both visually and audio-wise. Just gonna use a grenade to blow up that door for us. But even though you think you may hear him in a certain spot, he's not actually there. You're gonna be seeing things, hallucinations. So you can just kind of shoot you whenever you want. Whenever he wants, I guess. Got our handle and get back out. Very scary. He was just chilling over on the side. We can hop our way out of here. Now we have all we need to actually leave. But even though we're not using big out of bounds or prop clips or any of that stuff, we can still make really quick work of this, of just knowing where to go and essentially just running away from the monster at every given chance. So it's really this pathing that we break. You just can't keep up. One last binding. And you can see the power is still on. Usually you have like one fuel can for this run. We got lucky and had two, but with one, the power kind of runs out when we're coming back, which is more than fine. With all the saves coming and stuff, it's just not really a problem. But that definitely changes on harder difficulties because you also need fuel to save. So you can't save scum quite as easily. Now we're into kind of the final section of the game. It's the final encounter with the monster. He's what's stopping us from actually leaving. There's another callback to the Dark Descent and the Shadow and the orbs and all that stuff down here as well if you fall off of the final platform, but that is not an actual ending, so we need to escape and take this box with us. We can do a big boost as long as this is not down. This is randomized the pathways. Okay, it's not. Sweet. Just got a big boost off of this. Nope. Okay. So we're going to use this little box to push the big boxes. For whatever reason, these are really slow to move normally, but if you use a small prop to push them, you can move them much faster and then just jump over the wall really, really easily, leaving the monster behind. And once we fall down here, we have not only escaped the bunker, but we have completed the entire Amnesia Anthology. So that's time. We have wrapped up all the stories so far. Maybe in the future we'll add another title. Who knows what Frictional Games has in store. This came out a little over 2 years ago at this point. It just celebrated its anniversary like last month or something, so who knows when they're going to put out something new. I'll definitely run it whenever it drops, but yeah. Once again, if you like these runs, I've run all of them. I've run Soma, the Penumbras, as well as many other games. You can find all that stuff over on YouTube if you want to see them done glitchless. You can find that. I've run all the Amnesia games on controller, which is a little bit different, the prop flying and stuff. You can find that over there as well. You can check me out at twitch.tv/bloodthunder. I'll be practicing Indiana Jones and Doom the Dark Ages over the next couple days. And you'll see me at Summer Games Done Quick. It'll always be a fun time.
Absolutely. Thank you once again for the runs. That was all of the Amnesia games. Blood Thunder, question for you since we went pretty well underestimate.
Okay.
So we're joking that if you do the 80% run of Amnesia the Bunker, you pretty much don't get to see the whole game, right?
Right.
Yeah, I'll do a quick run of that.
Sure.
For anyone who doesn't know, it's like a 2-minute run, and all of the stuff we just did, yeah, you bypass all of that. And, since we did go underestimate, I feel we can quickly show that off if desired.
We'll actually do this one on Shell Shock difficulty, too, because it doesn't...
Wow, I'm going into hard mode. I can't...
Yeah.
The hardest mode.
A lot of people use this 80% run to get achievements for this game. Whether you want to beat the speedrun achievement that the devs have set, difficulty challenges, not saving challenges, that kind of stuff, it is really easy to do.
The funniest part about the run is that half of the run is the intro where you're waking up.
Yeah, so timing's like already kind of started for this run, and the reason why, because a lot of people ask why don't you just start it when you have input. During this black screen when you're waking up, you actually are spawned into the game, and you can move around. So there's a trick known as dream walking, where you can actually pick up the gun during that, and like interact with a few different things, which is banned in like glitchless, and it's not really used in 80%, because we just don't need the gun for any reason. But there are certain categories where you can dream walk and save a little bit of time during that opening little waiting period, which is why timing starts then and not now. But yeah, we've watched over half of the 80% run here, so I'm going to grab a little safety checkpoint in this room, and we're going to prop clip through this wall underneath the map, and we are already into the final encounter. It is quite ridiculous. We had these kind of strats on release day. I was setting the record for this game under 2 minutes on release day pretty much, and then other runners have since optimized it a little bit further. Got a big boost this time around. Whee! Instead of using that box trick, we're just going to prop fly past the monster straight to the ending. And if you want to learn how to do this, you want this route for your achievement grinding, I do have a tutorial on how to do prop clipping and prop flying to do this entire thing in under 2 minutes.
Also, there's time.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, GG.
Yeah, you can learn to run this and get a sub 3 minute time in 30 minutes. And that's just the nature of how the game's laid out. It's one big map into one small map. A lot of the other games, it's a very similar tricks across the board, right? All the Amnesias, you clip out of bounds, run to the end of the map. But those are just a bunch of maps together. This is just like one big map. So if all the other games were just one big map, they would be just as short. This happened to, kind of stretch it out a little bit longer. But yeah.
80%
a little silly.
Now GG officially.
Yeah. A little bit extra time,
Yeah. That being said, I know you did do your, your shout-outs for the upcoming runs at GDQ on the last one, but just as a reminder, if anyone did want to check you out, where can they find you?
Twitch.tv/BloodThunder, main place to be. Stream as much as I can, usually around this time as well. Do a lot of FPS and horror games. But if you ever want to see all of my old runs, like I said, all the frictional stuff, I don't actively work on as much because I'm pretty happy with my times, and I've been running these for well over a decade at this point. They're fun to show off, but a lot of that stuff can just be found on YouTube. So a lot of multi-game runs like this as well, including all the frictional stuff. Some of those have like extended into fan mods, Penumbra Necrologs, Twilight Archaic, stuff like that as well. So if you want to see some custom story speedruns as well, that's on YouTube. Just head over there.
All right. Well, thank you once again for the Amnesia Anthology runs. It is pretty fun to see, series of horror games that I think a lot of people know, but you don't always immediately get to see in the world of speedrunning, and it is nice to see them with how busted they can really get. Anyway, I hope you have enjoyed this episode of Speedruns from the Crypt. I've been your host, Dices. I do put these shows together, you know, usually every 2 weeks. I think we're going to be back in, like, 3 weeks, because we have SGDQ coming up next week, so I believe we'll be back in about, what, 3 weeks? When is that? What day is this? It's like the 23rd? We'll be back around then. Before we do go off for the night, just have a couple of announcements. One, if you ever do want to get involved in the GDQ community, we do have the official Games Done Quick Discord, where the Hotfix roll to stay in the loop on upcoming events, chat with staff, and more. You can use !Discord and Twitch chat for more information. As well, thank you to anyone who does support GDQ Hotfix with subs, Prime Gaming, gift subs, and bits. The contributions do help keep the show running, so thank you for that. Anyway, thank you all for watching. We will be having a couple of replays. We'll be having a replay of Crosshair, followed by the Speedruns from the Crypt replay, and you can tune in tomorrow from... actually, I don't think we have one tomorrow, but SGDQ's coming up, so we'll be having it there. Anyway, have a wonderful rest of the day or night, and take it easy.